She then went over and talked to some people, and some research was done. And it was discovered the campus, the way she saw it, was exactly the way it had been at about the time the college was founded. And the room that she was in was taught by a teacher that year, and they found an old annual, they found a picture, it looked exactly like her description of the woman. Now you may say, well, so what? Well, people didn't say so what. The Manager Clinic of Psychology in Kansas became very deeply involved in this. Life magazine wrote a very lengthy article. There were people involved in psychic research around the world who came and tried to understand what had happened. A bunch of the fellas were in trying to work out the details of a contract, and they went across the street to get a sandwich, and there was this old guy standing there, and I figured he was with him, and he had an old floppy overcap coat and a big floppy hat, and he carried a stick. And she said, and then I looked and he just disappeared, and I thought, well, maybe she's overworked, maybe she had too much caffeine, maybe she's got some other kind of problem. I didn't give it another thought.
Back to the little ranch where he'd grown up, and he was settling in again, and he heard there was going to be a dance in town, and he was anxious to go and see who was there and get reacquainted with people. So he got ready and he started driving into town. Just before he left the house, though, he grabbed his leather jacket because it was cold in the desert at night. And he was about halfway to town, and he saw a young woman walking along the side of the road. She was all dressed up in a pretty summer dress, and she certainly wasn't wearing walking shoes. So he stopped and asked her if she'd like a ride. And she got into the truck, and she was very quiet. And he said, well, I'll drive you. I'll walk you to your door. She said, no, I've walked this road for years. I'm comfortable with it. And so it was chilly, so he put his jacket around her shoulders and let her out of the car and drove on home. But he was very uneasy about that. He could barely make out the letters. They all worn away. And laying on one tombstone, the old lady pointed to him and said, here, there was his leather jacket. I carefully folded it.
And here's another true story on it. I would say, okay, who's in this story tonight? And they'd give me a couple of names and tell me what was going on. And I was to pick it up and go from there. And one night, middle son Scott, who now is a contest-winning test pilot, was in the news just a couple weeks ago, but he looked up from his bed and said to me, Dad, could we now talk about gorillas? In other words, the old teacher was a little long-winded sometimes in telling the stories, but so that's been a cry in our family for a while. Could we now talk about gorillas? But okay, I'll skip that.
Anyway, I was too young to go out on the buses that they loaded up a load of girls in McCook, and they would take them out there. And a friend of mine told me about this, that I worked with in an office with her for a while. And she said that they would send buses in from the air base, and the girls could go out and dance. But she had to have a clipboard and write everybody's name down and make sure they got back on the bus, so that have any problem with that. So.
Good, thank you. We slept near about 4 o'clock one morning when a guy shook my shoulder, and I was supposed to sleep in that day and I didn't get to. He said, you got a VIP mission up to the aircraft that morning, and it was pitch black dark, and we fly up to this little town called Latrine, which is where the VIP were supposed to be picked up at. And I taxied in, and we were about, I don't know, 100 yards from the shack where we were supposed to pick these VIPs up. Well, I turned the landing light on, and I shined it over toward the cabin, and door opened up, and out come about 8 or 10 guys, and one of them was walking kind of funny, like this, you know. And I recognized the walk right away.
I'd seen John Wayne in a few movies. And if you ever saw John Wayne in movies, you knew he had that real strange walk. And I'm looking at that and I can't believe it. In comes John Wayne and about 8 other guys that were all Detroit Tigers, I think. They were whoever the World Series champions were that year. They'd come over there and we were supposed to go fly them around to Bamituit, and which was about 2 hours to the west of where I was, where we would pick them up. So we got them on board the aircraft, and crew chief in the back briefed them on what they were supposed to do, sit down and put their earmuffs on and stuff. The aircraft, if you know what a Chinook is, it's a pretty loud airplane. Because I think you ought to let John Wayne fly this thing. I'd love to do that. You know, I get a chance to talk to him and that. So he puts his helmet on so I can talk to him over the intercom system. And I said, "You ever flown a helicopter before?" And he said, "Oh, son." Or, no, he said, "No, Pilgrim, I don't believe I have." So I said, "Well, you know, it's pretty easy. You just put your hand here on the cyclic and you put this hand over here on the collective, and if you want to make the buildings get big, you just push the stick forward. When it gets small, you just pull the stick back." Sure, Pilgrim, I'd love to do that. You know? So we go back there and we're flying up on the free fire zone. I said, "Okay, go ahead and let it fire." You know, it's quiet back there. Didn't hear a thing. We're flying along another 10-15 seconds. It's still quiet back there. And I'm thinking, well, we're going to need to tell him to start shooting that thing pretty good, because once we clear this area, you won't be able to shoot anymore. He said, "Well, sir, you won't believe this. John Wayne doesn't know how to shoot a machine gun either."
You will hear his hard work and celebration, voices of pioneers. Listen to the moments with their babies, or the echo of the soldier's flag. These are the stories of the buffalo commons. These are the tales of the golden plain. There was hard times and there was life, bountiful harvest, just like gold. The silver ribbons of the railroad, and the sunsets, days untold. You built a side house out on the prairie, on the land where lived the great chiefs. These are the stories of the buffalo commons. These are the tales of the golden plain. So sing them songs and tell stories, so our children know what went before. These are the stories of the buffalo commons. These are the tales of the golden plain.
Mike, on behalf of the Buffalo Commons Storytelling Festival Committee, I would like to have you have this plaque, the storyteller, for your panel. We appreciate the things that you've done for us. And Chris, we appreciate you coming back from New Mexico and helping us in the beginning to get started.
This is great. Thank
Good.
you.